Hello everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the idea of AP efficiency. Now, this is a topic that I've been building up to in my previous videos, talking about how we can calculate damage and what goes into it. And so today I'm going to be really looking into planning out how good a certain move is on your turn. And we're going to think about this with the idea of AP efficiency. Now, what AP efficiency is it's essentially a measure of how good the AP that you're spending on an attack are, right? How worth it is it to spend that AP versus spending that AP on something else? And so AP efficiency is the first way to look at this, and we'll unpack the idea of AP efficiency on a larger scale, planning out a whole turn later on. But for now, we're just focusing on a single action. And so I'm using my calculator. I've talked about this in the previous video. There's going to be a link to my video talking about this calculator in the description, but I'm going to use this as a representation of, how good a certain attack is. Now, for this concept of AP efficiency, we normally have to think about an enemy at a certain PD. And so we're going to do that. We're going to talk about an enemy with a PD of 12. Just for the basic example here, you could choose other PDs or defenses, I guess, in general, if you wanted to talk about, different defenses. But 12 is kind of a standard baseline, so we're going to use that. So let's talk about the idea of AP efficiency. So I'm going to set up some different inputs here, right? Here I'm going to talk about AP. So this is down here. I'm going to put the number of AP that I'm going to be spending. And over here, I'm going to decide to talk about, my efficiency, right? So what is the efficiency of my AP? I'm going to combine these two right here. Okay, so here's my AP efficiency, and efficiency can range, right? So the efficiency of 1 means that I'm dealing 1 damage per AP that I'm spending, right? But obviously this number varies, right? So let's think about it like this. I have this attack right here, and it's just a basic attack. It's a 1 base damage attack. I got a regular roll, right? There's no advantage or disadvantage or anything. It's just got a +4 to hit, and there's no help dice, there's no impact, there's no half on a miss, no DR, no vulnerabilities, just regular attack with the 1 damage. That's it, right? 1 base damage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the damage that I'm going to deal from that attack. So this is the damage from attack 1, and I'm going to divide that by the amount of AP that I'm spending, right? The more AP I spend, the lower that number is. And so this is not really a big shocker. If my attack does 1.3 damage and I'm spending 1 AP, that means I'm doing 1.3 damage per AP that I'm spending, right? Okay, so this is the basic idea of AP efficiency. I'm just taking whatever the damage is of that attack or that action, and I'm dividing it by the amount of AP required to make that attack, right? To make that action happen. So let's compare this to a similar scenario, right? I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a copy of this over here. And we're going to talk about the concept of AP efficiency with advantage, right? So with advantage, obviously I had to spend 2 AP, right? So, okay, it looked like my efficiency went down, but we got to remember that I got to change the advantage here. Okay, so now with AP for advantage, the efficiency of my AP is 0.995. So while my damage goes up, right, we can see here I'm doing 1.99 damage on average. The efficiency of my AP actually goes down. As I spend AP for advantage, each AP that I'm spending is actually less valuable than the previous AP. So just spending 1 AP for damage to just make an attack is actually going to be, better than spending an AP for advantage on that same attack if the only thing we care about is how effective the AP is, right? How much damage am I getting for each AP that I spend? Now we can think about a little bit of extra details here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to make a copy over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare 2 different attacks. So I'm going to take this here. We're looking still, want to look at the same input. I'm going to talk about attack 1 over in this one, and I'm going to talk about attack 2 over here in this one. So we're going to talk about attack 2. So, okay, attack 2 is our regular attack, and we're spending 1 AP on that. So that means the efficiency is 1.3. In fact, I'm going to zoom in here for you all. So we got 1.3 damage basically per AP that I'm spending, and if I used advantage, that's 0.995 damage per AP that I'm spending. So let's think about a different situation, or let's change the math in this situation. Let's say that this attack over here is going to have 2 base damage, and so is this regular one, right? So I've got 2 attacks, one with 2 base damage and no advantage. That's this one over here. And I've got an attack with 2 base damage and advantage, and this one's over here, right? And we can see that still the efficiency is lower when I'm spending the AP for advantage than it is when I'm not spending the AP for advantage. And just to see, right, this is the one we can see over here. It's the same row over here the 12, right? It's about 2.8, right? 2.9 damage that I'm dealing when I'm spending, a 2 base damage weapon with advantage, and still just 1.95 when I'm using, the 1 base damage weapon with no advantage. But even though the AP is for advantage is increasing the damage I'm doing, it's not really getting me more damage per AP that I'm spending, right? This is a trap. I think some people think about spending AP for advantage is always the best, right? And it is good in a lot of situations. It is going to make your damage better. The thing is, you have to ask yourself a question. Is this AP worth spending here, right? Am I doing more with my AP by spending it for advantage than I am if I just were able to pull off another attack? And we'll talk about that idea more in the next video, talking about damage routines. But for now, this kind of unpacks this idea of AP efficiency. So here's our idea of AP efficiency. We can think about, okay, well, what would we need to break even here, right? Let's say I had a 3 base damage attack. So that could be a heavy weapon with the weapon passive kicking in, right? Well, now AP efficiency is 2.6 for the regular attack, and it's 1.8725, right, for the advantage attack. So still, even as we increase the base damage, we can see the gap is kind of shrinking a bit, right? In fact, we could test a hardcore scenario that's not really going to happen. If I had 10 base damage for both of these scenarios, we can check out this is damage that you're not going to be dealing realistically. But in this case, right, the efficiency is still a lot higher just trying to land my attack than it would be using advantage, right? We can even try the opposite, which is if we had a 0 base damage attack. And now we can see the efficiency is kind of close, right? We got a 0.65 efficiency for, my regular hit, and basically a 0.55 efficiency for using AP for advantage. So we can kind of see that this kind of changes the situation a little bit. Our base damage is going to play a role into whether the advantage is worth it, right? Whether the advantage is really just about as good as trying to get another attack off, right? And so this is the key idea with AP for AP efficiency. It's actually a relatively simple concept. It's just the damage that you're dealing divided by the AP that you're spending. But a lot of people fail to really think about their turns or their actions in terms of AP efficiency. A lot of people just look at the number that you deal, and obviously that's important. But the reality is that you're spending resources to get these things to happen. You're spending AP that could have been spent elsewhere to make this attack stronger, right? Obviously, if I use power attack 3 times, that's going to be better than not using power attack at all. The question is, are you better off using power attack, or are you better off just trying to make another attack? So let's look at this, right? I have this AP efficiency over here of just making, our regular attack, right? We have 2 AP spent, and I'm going to make these 1 base damage again. So we have, the comparison here, advantage versus no advantage. Now, let's say the enemy has damage reduction, right? So let's give the enemy 1 damage reduction. So in this situation, we can see the efficiency gap got a little bit closer, right? The AP efficiency isn't that far off between these 2 situations. And that has a large part to do with the fact that now with the advantage, we're able to get heavy hits more often, and that means we're able to bypass that damage reduction more frequently. And so this is the main idea with AP efficiency, and it's really quite easy to set up. You can take the calculator that I have and just add 2 rows at the bottom. That's what I did here. And you can set up something like this, right? And compare the efficiency of certain attacks, right? I'm not going to set this up because I think it looks a little bit ugly in the main calculator, and it's not really necessary most of the time. People just want this information about which attacks are better. But it is a valuable insight into whether an attack is worth it or not. And hopefully a lot of you are going to come away with this thinking about not just how strong your attacks are, but also the resources that went into them. Is the AP that you're spending really that good spent here, right? We can compare not advantage, but we can compare a different situation, which is a regular attack, right? Where I'm adding power attack, and then the attack where I'm not, right? Over here, we can see this is my attack, just normal, right? I got the 1.05, wait, hold on. Yep, this is 1.05 damage. If I got my 1 base damage weapon, oh, sorry, I'm removing the damage reduction here. That's important. Just a regular attack. So we got 1.3 efficiency for just spending 1 AP, and we got 0.975 efficiencies for spending 2 AP. So what does this show me? Well, this first number here is the efficiency of power attack, right? Power attack has a little less than one damage per AP. Whereas if I'm using power attack on, if I'm not using power attack, then I'm going to have 1.3 damage per AP spent, right? The efficiency of that AP is still greater, right? And the more power attacks I add, right, that's not necessarily going to help, right? Here's another power attack. I add the damage by 1, I increase the AP by 1, and my efficiency went down, right? The more power attacks I add, the less it actually helps, right? This is a 1 attack and 3 power attacks, so that's all 4 AP, and the efficiency is getting lower and lower, right? Adding these power attacks isn't actually going to be helping your damage up by much, right? It's not going to be helping your AP efficiency by much. We can see the damage is clearly better, right? If we compare this 3.25, which is the damage we're getting here, versus the 1.3, the damage is definitely better with power attack, but the efficiency of that AP is not, right? The amount of value I'm getting for each AP, right, the bang for the buck, is going to be lower. And this tends to happen with almost anything we do to change an attack. Just attacking by default is probably going to be the best efficiency of AP that you're going to get. Trying to add advantage or trying to add something like a power attack is actually typically going to make your efficiency worse. The more levels of advantage, the worse the efficiency gets. The more amounts of power attack you add, the less the efficiency gets. And this is the core idea to talking about AP efficiency, right? We have to keep in mind that damage is useful, right? This big damage number like the 3.25 is nice to know, but you also have to keep in mind that these things are not free. And so is it worth the cost? That's essentially the point of thinking about AP efficiency. Just wanted to put out this short video just to get people to think about this concept that's pretty fundamental to properly evaluating whether an action is worth it or not, and to get us set up for the next video. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next time, have the best time.